Think for a moment. Have you ever felt that pressure, to be creative?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've looked at someone painting or writing music and just thought, nope, that's not me. I don't have it.
Right, I don't have that talent.
Exactly. But what if I told you that most of us have creativity completely backwards? And that you, yes, you, are actually inherently creative?
It's a pretty radical idea for a lot of people.
It really is. And today, we're going to dive deep into this. We're exploring a really profound philosophy on living creatively.
This comes straight from the legendary music producer Rick Rubin, specifically his book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
And this isn't just like a how-to guide. It's much bigger than that. It's really an invitation to shift your whole perspective on what being an artist means.
Yeah, and on just being present in your life.
So our mission today is basically to unpack Rubin's core ideas. We want to show how literally anyone can tap into this creative flow in their everyday life.
Forget the whole artistic talent idea for a minute. We're challenging those old notions, trying to show that the creative act is way more universal, more accessible than you might think.
And the thing that really jumped out at me right away from Rubin's work is his absolute foundational belief.
Which is?
That creativity isn't something you have, like a possession. It's something you access.
Okay, unpack that a bit. It's not like winning the genetic lottery.
Exactly. It's more like tuning into a universal energy that's just available to everyone.
And what's really fascinating is how he just blows the doors off the definition of artist. It's not just painters and musicians.
No, not at all. He's saying, look, whether you're coding or figuring out how to talk through a tough conversation or cooking dinner or even building a relationship.
You're creating something, you're engaged in a creative act.
Right. It just dissolves those boundaries we put up between artists and, well, everyone else.
It makes it much less intimidating somehow.
Totally. And he really urges us to start by just looking.
Yeah.
By seeing the world with this deep curiosity and presence. That's where he says all art really begins.
There's that quote, right? It's not about being unique,
but being true to the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, forget the pressure to be original. Just pay attention. Be honest about what you see, what you feel.
And the uniqueness just kind of emerges from that authenticity.
Precisely. It lets you start with what is right now instead of chasing some, I don't know, grand idea of genius that paralyzes you before you even start.
It's liberating, really. And it connects directly to how he sees the artist's role overall.
Which is more like a channel.
Exactly. Think less creator god making something from nothing and more like an antenna picking up a signal that's already out there.
So the artist isn't the sole source.
No, they're the conduit, the filter, maybe. The vessel through which this universal creative energy takes form. It implies a certain humility, letting go of the ego.
Trusting the ideas that come through you.
Yeah. And that takes presence. He says the work reveals itself to those who are present.
Okay, but presence can sound a bit vague. What does he mean by it, really?
Well, it's not just physically being there. It's an active kind of listening, an openness.
Tuning out the noise.
Yeah, silencing the internal chatter, the external demands, long enough to actually perceive what's happening, connecting deeply.
Like a photographer learning to really see light, not just look at it.
Or a musician hearing the silence between the notes. It's about noticing what's already there, waiting.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of brings up the question of, like, where we get our input from. The world is so loud.
Right. So much noise. And paradoxically, Rubin suggests great work often comes from stillness, from less input, not more.
So tuning out the external validation, the trends, the demands.
And tuning into that quiet inner voice, that subtle nudge. That intuition, that matters way more than chasing likes or awards.
Which is a perfect lead into another huge idea he challenges.
Yeah.
This constant focus on the outcome.
Ah, yes. The results, the success metrics.
He wants us to completely rethink that. He says, flat out, we're not creating to win awards. We create because it's who we are.
That just reframes everything, doesn't it? It shifts the motivation entirely away from external prizes.
And towards the simple joy of doing, the process itself.
And that insight is so powerful because it helps dismantle one of the biggest creative roadblocks there is.
Let me guess. Perfectionism.
You got it. He calls perfectionism fear in disguise.
Fear in disguise.
Wow. So if it's fear...
Then the answer isn't to try harder to be perfect, which is impossible anyway. The answer is to face the fear.
Which means just starting.
Yeah. It moves the focus from making it perfect to just making it beginning.
Yeah.
Even if it's messy, even if it's flawed.
That is so freeing. I mean, how many times do we wait? Wait for permission, wait for the perfect moment, the perfect tools.
Oh, absolutely. We get paralyzed.
I know, I've done it. You wait for everything to line up just right, and of course it never does.
And Rubin's advice is just so direct, so liberating. What is it? Start small.
Start now. Start imperfect. Just begin. Love that. And you can see how this connects to his own whole philosophy, his way of life, which seems very rooted in simplicity, minimalism.
Right. He talks about doing less, but doing it deeply.
And that's not just like an aesthetic preference for him. It's fundamental to how he approaches making art. Strip away the excess.
To get to the core, the essence.
Yeah, which shows how things like structure and discipline aren't the enemy of creativity.
Which sounds counterintuitive, maybe.
A little, but he argues they actually support it. Think about it. Getting good sleep, having some kind of routine, clearing out distractions.
It's not about rigid rules, then. It's about creating the right conditions.
Exactly. Creating the mental space, the physical space for that creative channel to actually open up and, receive clearly.
Cultivating the soil so something can grow.
That's a great way to put it. And ultimately, underlying all of this, there's this sense of a deep connection between the art and, well, something bigger, spirit, maybe.
Beyond just technical skill.
Way beyond. He says, what you create is a reflection of how you live.
So the art flows from your being, not just your doing.
It suggests the most powerful art comes from living authentically, from who you actually are in the world.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you listening right now? I think Rick Rubin's message, fundamentally, is that we are all artists.
Not necessarily with a paintbrush or a guitar, but
in how we think, how we solve problems, how we interact, how we love, just how we live moment to moment.
And the really good news, you don't need to be perfect.
Not even close. Perfection isn't the point. The point is presence.
Authentic expression. The simple, maybe even joyful act of bringing something new into being, no matter how small.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
If creativity is really about this presence, about accessing what's already here, inside and out, rather than chasing some external idea of perfection,
then what?
Then what simple act of curiosity or even just stillness could you practice today, right now even?
Just one small thing.
One small thing to maybe unlock a new little insight or a tiny creative spark. Regardless of what you actually produce, what could that be for you?